Senators in Brazil are set to give their verdict on President Bolsonaro's handling of COVID. They're about to vote on a report that recommends he be tried for crimes against humanity. Queen Elizabeth will not be attending the climate conference, COP26. She had been due to attend the evening reception on Monday. She will still deliver an address to the assembled delegates via a recorded video message. Australia has announced plans to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. Critics say the proposal lacks detail and ambition for a country which is one of the world's top producers of coal and gas. The UN has warned about the need for another wake-up call on climate action, saying the current plans of governments around the world to cut carbon fall well short of what is needed to combat climate change.
In Tokyo, health officials report a record 3,177 new COVID-19 cases Wednesday as the city holds the Summer Olympics, causing concern that rising cases could fill hospitals. In Beijing, China's foreign minister meets with a delegation of high-level Taliban officials from Afghanistan to increase diplomatic ties between the two countries. Tunisia's president orders a curfew in reaction to violence that followed his decision to suspend the parliament. And in Peru, Pedro Castillo is sworn in as president. The new leader faces political division after a disputed election.
We begin in Japan, where the eldest daughter of the crown prince has officially left the imperial household to marry and become a commoner. The couple will not have the traditional wedding ceremony reserved for the imperial family. This comes in the wake of a series of unfavorable media reports involving the mother of the man she's chosen to marry, Komuro Kei. But Komuro Mako said getting married is a necessary choice for the couple to live their lives while staying true to their hearts. On Tuesday morning, she left the imperial residence in central Tokyo, where she'd lived most of her life. She was seen off by her parents, Crown Prince and Princess Akishino, and her younger sister, Princess Kako. A few hours later, the couple spoke to journalists.
I have been helped, watched, and supported by many people for the past 30 years. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to those who have worked with me.
Earlier this month, the Imperial Household Agency released a statement saying Mako had been diagnosed with PTSD. The announcement came after repeated public criticism over a financial dispute involving Komuro's mother and her former fiancé. Mako said she was upset false information about them was being spread.
The erroneous information was accepted as if it was true for some reason. I was scared to see groundless stories spreading. I also felt pain and sadness. I am grateful to those who have continued to believe in Kei despite the difficult situation.
Komuro himself said he would request that his mother's former fiancé accept a settlement to resolve the issue.
Despite various hardships, thanks to the support of Mako and people around us, I have been able to maintain my desire to live with her. I would like to express my sincere gratitude.
Reporters at the news conference were told they could only send questions in advance and the couple would provide answers in writing. Officials said that was the advice of a doctor because Mako was shocked by some of the questions. Mako wrapped up the news conference with words for people who suffer from mental health challenges.
I think there are many people who have been hurt and who are living their lives finding it difficult to preserve their mental well-being. I hope we will have a society where more people can live their lives while safeguarding their mental well-being with the kind support of those around them.
They plan to settle in New York, where Komuro recently started working at a law firm. China's foreign minister has offered continued support to Afghanistan in a meeting with a senior Taliban official in Qatar. Minister Wang Yi held talks with Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar on Monday in the Qatari capital, Doha. Baradar is acting first deputy prime minister of the Taliban's interim government. During the meeting, Wang said China has been urging the United States and other Western nations to lift sanctions against Afghanistan. He said that would help the country pursue the path of sound development. Wang urged the Taliban to protect the rights of women and children. He said the group should distance itself from all terrorist organizations, including the East Turkestan Islamic Movement. It's seeking independence for China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, which shares a border with Afghanistan. Baradar expressed gratitude for China's support. He said the Taliban intend to protect the rights of women and children and won't deprive them of education and work. He also said the Taliban won't allow individuals or groups to do harm to China. The Washington Post has reported that Facebook bent the demands of Vietnam's leaders and agreed to censor critics of the ruling Communist Party. The U.S. newspaper says the world's most powerful social networking company chose profits over free speech. Facebook earns more than $1 billion in annual revenue in Vietnam, according to a 2018 estimate. The paper reported the allegation on Monday. The claim was based on interviews with 3 people familiar with the matter who spoke on condition of anonymity. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg reportedly decided to comply with Hanoi's demands ahead of Vietnam's Party Congress in January. The Post alleges that Facebook gave the Vietnamese government near total control over the platform by significantly increasing censorship of so-called anti-state posts. But the paper didn't mention which posts were removed or how the content was censored. Facebook has been drawing a lot of flack of late. A former employee has accused the company of developing a new version of Instagram that's harmful to children. The whistleblower claims the company knew its image-sharing service had a negative impact on the mental health of young users. Multiple media outlets in the United States have reported on thousands of pages of leaked internal documents that paint a damaging picture of the company. Former South Korean President Roh Tae-woo has died at the age of 88. He was the country's last leader with a military background. Roh was born in the southeastern city of Daegu in 1932. As a senior army officer, he took part in the 1979 military coup led by Chung Du-hwang, who later became president. Roh won the presidency in 1987 when the Constitution was last amended. It was the first presidential election in 16 years. He was in office when the country hosted the Seoul Olympics in 1988. Roh was arrested on corruption charges in 1995, 2 years after he retired. He was sentenced to 17 years in prison for taking massive payments from businesses while in office. He was pardoned in 1997. There were recent reports Roh was in poor health. A hospital in Seoul announced he died on Tuesday. A United Nations climate survey shows global concentrations of greenhouse gases hit a record high last year. That was despite a drop in fossil fuel CO2 output due to restrictions because of the coronavirus pandemic. The World Meteorological Organization analyzed data on methane, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide. It looked at the global average concentrations of these gases. Officials of the Japan Meteorological Agency were involved in analyzing the data. They stressed countermeasures need to be taken over the long term. In keeping with this, Japan's Transport Ministry says it'll join an international initiative calling on the global shipping industry to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. This follows a pledge 3 years ago by the International Maritime Organization. It said it would aim to cut global shipping emissions by 50% by 2050 from the levels in 2008. NHK has learned Japanese officials plan to propose a net zero target at an IMO meeting next month. They'll do so jointly with other countries such as the United States. In April, the U.S. called for the net zero target to be reached no later than 2050. But the shipping sector doesn't yet have the technology to reach net zero by that date. Meanwhile, Australia is aiming to achieve net zero emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050. Prime Minister Scott Morrison will attend the COP26 climate change summit that starts in Scotland on Sunday. He apparently hopes the announcement will ease international pressure on Australia to address climate change. Morrison said the government will invest about $15 billion by 2030 on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. He added that the investment will also reduce the cost of hydrogen and solar power and accelerate their use.
We won't just be measuring the fact that we'll be reducing emissions. We'll be measuring the fact that we're creating jobs. We'll be measuring the fact that we're boosting incomes. We'll be measuring the fact that we are preserving Australians' livelihoods right across the country.
Australian governments have shown relatively little interest in combating climate change, as the country's economy is supported by exports of coal and other raw materials. Japan and many Western nations have already announced plans to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. In Major League Baseball, Japanese two-way star Ohtani Shohei has been named a finalist in the designated hitter category for the Silver Slugger Award. The prize recognizes the best offensive players at each position as chosen by Major League managers and coaches. Ohtani is among the 5 finalists announced on Monday in the DH category of the American League. This season, Ohtani racked up 46 homers, 100 runs batted in, and 26 stolen bases for the Los Angeles Angels. As a pitcher, he recorded 9 wins and 156 strikeouts. Ohtani also became the first player ever to start as both pitcher and leadoff batter in the All-Star game. The winners are to be announced on November 11th. A potent storm has been swirling over the central Mediterranean, bringing deadly flooding to surrounding countries. Our meteorologist Sakamori has a look at the situation in world weather.
Hello there. A Mediterranean storm dubbed a Medicane has been rotating over the central Mediterranean, bringing dangerous rainfall to southern Italy, Algeria, as well as parts of northern areas of Africa, and that has led to significant flooding. Several people have been killed in Tunisia, Algeria, and southern Italy. It has brought over 300 millimeters of rainfall in Sicily, and also parts of northern Africa saw more than 160 millimeters. We have some video coming out of southern Italy. Fierce storms battered southern Italy for a second day on Monday. Heavy rains caused landslides too and blocked some roads. Italy's fire department reported that over 580 rescues were carried out in 24 hours. If you remember, last summer, Sicily experienced a huge number of wildfires, and the island also recorded 48.8 degrees Celsius, possibly the highest temperature ever observed in Europe. But this area is now dealing with a different phenomenon. We're seeing lots of heavy rainfall. More rain is likely, at least into Friday. We'll continue to see heavy rainfall over southern Italy. Temperature-wise, looking nice in Rome. 21 is expected on your Wednesday. London at 18 degrees. It's cold and wet in Moscow with high of 6 degrees. Meanwhile, over Asia, we have a tropical system, Malo. This system will likely intensify to a typhoon and move over the Ogasawara Islands into Thursday. Meanwhile, we have a tropical depression over the Indochina Peninsula. It will bring heavy rainfall to Vietnam once again, but a huge high-pressure system is in controlling the weather over many places of China, so looking clear during the daytime hours. 19 for the high in Beijing, but it's going to be cold in the morning hours because of the radiation cooling. Tokyo could see rainfall with a high of 18 on Wednesday. That's it for me. Stay safe.